As the quality control supervisor of an import company, I need to complete the final batch of king crab warehousing before the National Day holiday. As soon as I entered the -18°C freezer, the door was immediately locked, and the alarm system also failed. Realizing that the room temperature was starting to rise, I immediately took out the heat packs from the emergency kit, but as soon as I applied them to my body, a chilling sensation made me realize something was wrong. I screamed from the cold, and my fiancé Eric's maniacal laughter came through the walkie-talkie. We were live-streaming a challenge to lock the company's ice queen in the freezer to see how long she could last. The coquettish voice of a female colleague Lena who was on duty with him also chimed in. Sister Yang, give the family in the live broadcast room a smile. Top donor wants to see it. I instantly understood that they were live-streaming a prank on me. Not only locking me in the freezer but also replacing my life-saving warming pack with fever-reducing cooling patches. I gritted my teeth and tried to remain calm as I pleaded with them for help. Spare heating pad for my fiancé. His voice came through the intercom, nonchalant. Oops. Kobayashi is having her period and feeling cold, so she's using the spares to warm her stomach. You're so healthy, you can warm up by jumping around, and you might even get a reward from Big Brother. I didn't argue anymore, and with my frozen hands, I pulled out the signal gun and aimed it at the most expensive mysterious cargo in the freezer, a vial of frozen sperm worth 200 million. Hello everyone, welcome to the Takoda Novel Society. Today, I'm sharing an interesting new story with you all. The cold metal shell of the signal gun pressed against my palm as I steadily aimed the muzzle at the silver metal crown engraved with AF001. Eric, are you sure you want to play it this big? My voice trembled from the cold, but my tone was very firm. Eric's laughter stopped abruptly from the walkie-talkie, followed by Lena's flustered voice. Sister Yang, don't be impulsive, you can't touch that thing. Now you know you can't touch it, I sneered, the white breath I exhaled condensed into a cloud in front of me. Why didn't you think about the consequences when you locked me in here? Eric was still stubborn. Emily, stop trying to scare people, isn't this just a prank? As for taking your anger out on the company's valuable goods, do you even know what that is? You dare to point at it randomly. Put down the signal gun. I ignored him, instead using my free hand to gently tap the metal can next to me, making a crisp echo that was particularly piercing in this dead silent ice storage. This is Mr. Zachary's lifeblood. He spent 200 million to get it from a tribal chief in Africa in order to have an heir. It is said to be a top-notch gene that appears once in a century. I, the quality control supervisor, personally handled the warehousing procedures. Do you think I don't know? Silence filled the walkie-talkie. I can imagine the sudden change in expression on Chen Mingming and Lena's faces in the monitoring room outside. They know the value of this thing better than anyone. On the day of its storage, Mr. Zachary personally supervised everything, even requiring the movers to use brand new gloves. He said that if anything went wrong with this thing, everyone involved would have to disappear from this city. Xie Lin's sobbing voice rang out again, as if he had suffered a great injustice. Sister Yang, we really just wanted to play a joke on you to liven up the atmosphere. It's just that you're always so cold. And everyone is a little afraid of you. Please put down the gun. Okay, Mingming will open the door for you in a moment. As soon as he finished speaking, Eric immediately chimed in. Yes, Emily, we're just kidding. I'll find a way to open the door right away. The old lock circuit might be frozen. Don't worry. I'll go get some tools. As I listened to their duet, the last bit of warmth in my heart disappeared completely. The circuit is frozen. This German-imported constant temperature storage door can work normally in an environment of -50 degrees. He's treating me like an idiot. Stop acting. My voice turned cold. I'll give you 10 seconds to open the door. Don't forget you're still live streaming. If Mr. Zachary sees his lifeline ruined by you online, do you think you can live to see tomorrow? I'm giving you 10 seconds. Open the door immediately. 19. I'm starting to count down. Frozen fingers fumbled with the signal gun's handle. The walkie-talkie crackled with Chen Mingming's frustrated growl and Lena's sobs. Crazy Qin Yang. You lunatic. What about Mingming GE? The live stream is exploding. Top donor said he wants to see him really fire the gun. Shut up, 32. Just as I was about to pull the trigger, Eric almost shouted, telling me not to shoot and that he would open it now. I breathed a sigh of relief, my body shaking even more from the release of tension. However, half a minute passed, and I was finding it difficult to even breathe. As the heavy vault door remained motionless, over the intercom, Chen Mingming's voice sounded again. Emily, I'm really sorry. I was too nervous just now and entered the electronic lock password incorrectly 3 times, so the system has automatically locked down. Now we have to wait for an engineer to come and unlock it. After hearing his words, my heart sank to the bottom in an instant. The nearest engineer to the company will take an hour to arrive. Chen Mingming, you're playing me. How can you say I'm playing you? His voice contained undisguised triumph, as if he were enjoying my despair. This is fate. Even God wants you to cool down in there. Lena also pretended to be weak and echoed, Yang, since you can't get out anyway, why not cooperate with our livestream? The family in the livestream all say they want to see the pitiful look of an ice queen in the freezer. Top donor just sent another 10 rockets, saying that as long as you dance the Daoma Dan dance in there, he'll send another 10. I was trembling with anger, not knowing if it was from the cold or the fury. They never intended to let me out from the start. The so-called wrong password was just an excuse for them to delay time and continue this cruel livestream. Eric, are you not afraid that I will really destroy this thing? I raised the signal gun again, but this time my hand was shaking so badly that I could hardly hold it. You won't. Eric's face was completely devoid of panic, and he said with certainty, Emily, I know you too well. You have such a strong sense of responsibility and value the company's interests more than your own life. Last time, in order to rush a batch of goods, you stayed in the warehouse with a high fever. It's the same this time. You can't bear to destroy it. You don't dare. His words were like a knife precisely inserted into my heart. Yes. He knows me, but he is using my sense of responsibility to put me to death, and I advise you not to mess around. His voice turned cold. I've already reported to Mr. Zachary that you're doing a routine check and will be on duty in the freezer area tonight to ensure everything is safe. Mr. Zachary even praised you for your dedication and said he'd give you a bonus if you dare to touch that thing. How will you explain it when Mr. Zachary arrives? Shameless, he twisted the truth. Blocking all my escape routes. If something happens to me here, it will just be an accident caused by dedication to my work. If I destroy the goods to survive, it would be embezzlement and malicious damage. Either way, I lose. A chill rose from the soles of my feet, quickly spreading throughout my body, making even my bones feel icy. I felt my consciousness begin to blur, and my vision darkened. No, I can't die here. I held onto the cold shelves, forcing myself to stand firm. Eric. My voice carried a hint of pleading. For the sake of our impending marriage, this was my last hope. If you let me out, I can pretend today never happened. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the walkie-talkie, and I almost thought he would soften. However, Lena's flippant words completely shattered my illusions. Sister Yang, you don't know yet, do you? Mingming has already decided to call off the engagement with you. He said being with you is too tiring. Like guarding a piece of ice that won't warm up, and Xieling deliberately dragged out her words, her voice full of boasting and smugness. I'm already pregnant, with Mingming's child. We're getting engaged next month. With a bang, my mind went blank. Pregnant, calling off the engagement. So all of this wasn't just a temporary prank, but a long-planned murder. They want me dead so they can be together legitimately. Emily, don't blame me. Chen Mingming's voice rang out again. Cold and devoid of emotion. Blame yourself for being too boring and too assertive. Xiaolin is gentler and more considerate than you. Men aren't like you, so rest in peace. Xiaolin will take good care of your career, your love, and everything you have. Despair trapped me like a giant net. I slid down against the shelves, the energy in my body draining away bit by bit. Just then, footsteps came from outside the freezer, along with a slightly aged voice asking why someone was still at work so late and what they were doing in the monitoring room. It was Mr. Walter, the security guard on night duty. A glimmer of hope ignited in my heart, and I mustered all my strength to grab the walkie-talkie and scream, Mr. Walter, save me. I'm locked in the freezer. As soon as my cry for help faded, Eric's calm voice came through the walkie-talkie. "Mr. Walter is still here, working overtime with us." He seemed to have switched to the public channel of the walkie-talkie, so Mr. Walter didn't hear my plea. Sister Yang is doing the final inventory check. He doesn't trust the last batch of goods before the National Day holiday, so he insists on watching over them himself. We're here with him. Just in case something happens, Lena immediately chimed in with a sickeningly sweet voice. "Yes, Mr. Walter, Sister Yang is so dedicated. We've all told him to rest early, but he refuses, saying that the freezer is cool and allows him to focus on his work." Mr. Walter seemed convinced by them, his voice filled with approval. "Ah, Xiaoqin, that girl is so responsible. You guys are working hard too. Okay, then you guys carry on. I'll go take a look elsewhere." The sound of footsteps gradually faded away, and my last glimmer of hope was extinguished by them with utter nonchalance. I collapsed on the ground, watching the closed door in despair. The intercom was switched back to the private channel, and Eric's mocking voice came through clearly. "Did you hear that, Emily? Everyone thinks you're a workaholic, a superwoman. Even if you freeze to death inside, you'll just be seen as a model worker who died on the job. And you'll become a positive example for training new employees." Lena's laughter was even more unrestrained. "Sister Yang, listen, top donor just sent another 10 carnivals. He says if you kneel down now and bark like a puppy a few times, he'll have Mingming turn up the temperature. What do you say? Consider it humiliation, blatant humiliation. They not only want my life, but they also want to trample on my dignity before I die, crushing it to pieces." I gritted my teeth, the taste of blood spreading in my mouth, my body getting colder and colder, my eyelids swollen as if filled with lead. I knew this was a sign of the middle and late stages of hypothermia. If this continued, it wouldn't be long before I fell into a coma, and then my heart would stop. Was I really going to die here? Die in a carefully designed scheme by my fiancé and his mistress? I was not willing. I really was not willing. I used my last bit of strength to hold onto the shelf and stagger to my feet. Since they weren't going to give me a way out, then everyone would be finished together. I used the last bit of strength in my body to steady the hand holding the gun as I slipped. I didn't aim at the test tube anymore. Instead, I raised it slightly and aimed at the patch of yellow, deadly insulation above the shelf. My actions seemed to finally make Eric sense that something was wrong, and his arrogant laughter stopped. You're really going to do it?" A hint of real panic appeared in his voice for the first time. I didn't answer him. I just pulled the trigger with all my strength. Bang! A dull gunshot, a blinding red flash, like an angry tongue of fire, instantly shot towards the yellow foam. The next second, the flames exploded with a roar, and Lena's heart-wrenching screams came from the walkie-talkie. "It's on fire," followed by Eric's terrified roar. "Put out the fire quickly." Damn it, however, it was too late. The piercing fire alarm, resounding throughout the factory area, was instantly triggered, its sound drowning out all the laughter and screams. Two-component polyurethane foam insulation is flammable, once ignited. The fire spreads rapidly and releases thick smoke containing highly toxic cyanide. This was my first lesson as a quality control supervisor during onboarding training. Chen Mingming and Lena had clearly forgotten. The fire exploded before my eyes, and thick smoke instantly choked my mouth and nose. I didn't dodge. Instead, I took a deep breath into the smoke. The scorching air flooded my cold lungs, and the violent coughing brought me back to my senses a little. I had to stay conscious. The fire would trigger the highest level of alarm, and the fire suppression system would spray high concentrations of carbon dioxide into the warehouse. Before the rescue arrived, I might die of suffocation. I dragged my stiffening legs, desperately crawling towards the door, each centimeter of movement feeling like knives scraping against my bones. On the walkie-talkie, Chen Mingming and Lena's screams and curses had turned into terrified cries. "You're a madman! You're a madman! There's so much smoke, it's so fun! Fun! Eric, what do we do? The alarm is going off, the whole factory can hear it. How should I know what to do? Run!" Footsteps, crashes, sobs. They dropped the walkie-talkie and ran, leaving me alone in this sea of fire and poisonous smoke. I laughed, my lungs burning with pain, but I still laughed. This is good too. Having them two as company on the road to the Yellow Springs isn't a loss. I lay on the ground, my consciousness gradually dissipating under the dual assault of toxic smoke and low temperatures. Just as I was about to close my eyes, the door that I thought would never open boomed open with a loud crash, and a blinding light shone in. Someone rushed in, more than one person, firefighters and a security guard in uniform. "Mr. Walter, there's someone here, quickly get him out." I was lifted onto a stretcher, and in the violent shaking, I saw the monitoring room, which was empty. Chen Mingming and Lena had really run away. I was lifted into the ambulance, and an oxygen mask was placed on my face. I breathed greedily, and in my blurred vision, I saw the ashen face of the company's big boss, Mr. Zachary, with a trembling figure standing beside him. Lena, he had been caught. Emily. Mr. Zachary rushed to the ambulance and grabbed my hand. "How's my baby?" I watched him tear off the mask and used my last strength. The canister is fine, but the insulation layer is burned, and the refrigeration system has stopped. Now it's heating up every second. Your baby son is about to be cooked." Mr. Zachary's face instantly turned pale. He let go of me and rushed towards the freezer like a madman. "Quickly notify the experts to prepare liquid nitrogen. We must save him at all costs." I watched his back, put the mask back on, and closed my eyes. Chen Mingming. Lena, "Mr. Zachary, the show has just begun." Covers face. I woke up in the hospital with severe hypothermia and aspiration-induced lung damage. The doctor said it was a miracle that I could be saved from the brink of death. I lay in the hospital bed, looking at the moon outside the window. Today is National Day, and also the Mid-Autumn Festival, a day that should be for family reunions. My parents died early, and my only relative was my fiancé Eric. The fiancé who wanted me dead. The door to the ward was pushed open, and Chen Mingming and Lena walked in, followed by Chen Mingming's parents. "Yang Yang, you're awake. Thank God." Eric's mother rushed to my bedside, squeezing out a few tears. "How could you be so impulsive, child? Even if you didn't agree with Mingming and Xiaolin's affair, you couldn't commit arson and suicide." I looked at her, unable to say a word, turning black and white. The whole family was good at it. Eric's father wore a stern face, speaking in the tone of an elder. "Qinyang, you've gone too far in this matter. The company has suffered heavy losses. Mr. Zachary is very angry. Mingming and Xiaolin have both lost their jobs, and they're facing huge compensation. Are you satisfied now?" I stared at them coldly. "What are you talking about?" My voice was hoarse, like sandpaper rubbing together. "What do you mean I committed arson and suicide?" Lena immediately hid behind Eric, a look of grievance on her face. "Yang Jie, we know you're angry, but you can't lie. The surveillance footage shows that you were the one who fired the gun and started the fire. We tried to stop you, but we couldn't." Chen Mingming nodded in agreement, his face full of heartache. "Yang Yang, I know you blame me, but we really just wanted to play a joke on you. We never meant to hurt you. It was you who got too emotional and did something stupid. Now that things have turned out like this, let's bear it together, okay? Tell Detective and Mr. Zachary that it was an accident, for the sake of the child in Xiaolin's belly, and for the sake of our upcoming marriage." "Shut up," I finally couldn't help but roar. "Who's getting married to you? Eric, do you have any shame?" My roar tugged at the injury in my lungs, and a violent cough left me almost unable to breathe. Eric's mother immediately came up to pat my back, hypocritically saying, "Don't get excited, your health is important. I'm doing this for your own good. Look at your temper, which man can stand it? Xiaolin is so good, gentle and obedient, and she's carrying our family's grandson. You're like a hen that can't lay eggs, taking up space without letting go. Is that right?" His words were like a poisoned knife, stabbing fiercely into my heart. A hen that can't lay eggs. We had been together for 3 years and hadn't had children because Eric said he wasn't ready. He said he wanted to wait until his career was stable before giving me a stable home. It was all a lie. He wasn't unprepared, he was just waiting for another woman to have a child for him. "Get out," I'm pointing at the door. "Get out of here with all your might. You're rebelling against me." Eric's father was furious and raised his hand to hit me. A figure in a police uniform stood in front of my hospital bed. Detectives on the case. All irrelevant personnel please leave. 2 detectives walked in with serious expressions. Eric's family saw the detectives and their arrogance immediately diminished by half. Detective comrades, this is a family matter. We received a report that Ms. Qin Yang is suspected of arson, endangering public safety. The leading detective glanced at me and then turned to Eric and Lena. You two are suspected of illegal detention and intentional homicide. Please come with us now. 6. In the interrogation room of the detective bureau. The lights were stark white. I watched Chen Mingming and Lena through the one-way mirror next door. They were still acting. Detective comrades, we're being wronged. We were really just joking with him. Yes, it's like a prank livestream. It's very popular online now. We didn't think he would take it seriously, let alone that he would set a fire. He's been under too much pressure lately, and his mental state is a bit unstable. Their story was exactly the same as what my parents said back then. As I watched them, it felt like an invisible hand was tightly gripping my heart. The detective took out a tablet and opened a video, a recording from a live streaming platform provided by an anonymous source. In the video, Eric's wild laughter and Lena's coquettish voice were crystal clear. We're live streaming a challenge, locking the company's ice queen in the freezer to see how long she can last. Sister Yang, give the folks in the live stream a smile. As the video played, the faces of Chen Mingming and Lena grew paler and paler. Their bodies began to tremble, their lips quivering, unable to utter a single word. This is a fabrication. Lena suddenly screamed. Emily forged this. He understands computers. He wants to frame us. Yes, it's a fake. Eric also grasped at the straw. Detective, you can't believe him. He's just a madman. The detective turned off the video, looking at them expressionlessly. This video, along with the real-time comments from 400,000 viewers in the live stream, has been submitted to the technical department for verification. Also, we have found that top donor, he has confessed to paying to watch a live murder stream. Deathly silence filled the interrogation room. The color drained from Chen Mingming and Lena's faces, and they slumped in their chairs, as if their bones had been removed. No, Lena was still muttering to herself. I'm pregnant. I can't go to jail. I'm pregnant. You can't arrest me. Eric suddenly raised his head and looked at the glass towards me. His eyes full of resentment and hatred. He roared and lunged at the glass, hitting it hard with his head. You vicious woman. How cruel you are. Where have I ever wronged you that you want to ruin me like this? I just wanted to find a woman I love. What did I do wrong? You ruined me. You ruined my child. I won't let you go even if I become a ghost. The detective rushed forward and pinned him to the ground, but he was still cursing and struggling like a mad dog. I watched him quietly, my heart as still as water. Chen Mingming, you are not wrong. You just wanted to kill me, and I just wanted to make you pay the price. Neither of us is wrong. The outcome of events was faster than I had imagined. With conclusive evidence, Chen Mingming was sentenced to 15 years in prison for attempted intentional homicide and illegal imprisonment, with multiple charges combined. Lena, as an accessory under duress and being pregnant, was sentenced to 3 years of probation. The live streaming platform was ordered to rectify and fined 10 million for disseminating bloody and violent content. Top donor was also criminally detained for suspected incitement to crime. As for me, because I took emergency measures for self-preservation under threat of life, I was not held criminally liable, but I was liable for civil compensation for damage to public and private property. After confirming that his precious son was safe and sound, Mr. Zachary finally remembered me. The repair costs for the insulation and refrigeration systems were astronomical, and he sued me in court. On the day of the court hearing, Eric's parents also came. They rushed up to me, hitting-anding me. You jinx, you've ruined our whole family. Our son is in jail because of you. What else do you want? You pay, you give us back our son's youth. The bailiff stopped them, looking at their distorted faces. I just felt ridiculous. Their son wanted to kill someone, and they didn't think they were wrong. I destroyed something to save my life, but I became an unforgivable sinner. In court, Mr. Zachary's lawyer was aggressive. Emily, As the company's quality control supervisor, you were well aware of the importance of the cold storage insulation layer, yet you chose to ignite it in the most extreme way, which goes beyond the scope of emergency avoidance. Your actions have caused nearly 10 million in economic losses to my client, and we demand full compensation from you. The words 10 million compensation felt like a mountain, suffocating me, all my savings over the past few years. Plus the house my parents left me, are far from enough. This will take me a lifetime to repay. My lawyer is fighting for me based on reason. The situation was critical at the time, and my client had already shown severe symptoms of hypothermia and was in a state of confusion. In that situation, he couldn't make the most rational judgment. His only thought was to survive. Igniting the insulation to trigger the fire alarm was the only thing he could think of at the time. And it was the only effective way to call for help. In court, the two sides argued fiercely. I looked at Mr. Zachary's cold face and suddenly spoke. Mr. Zachary. Everyone quieted down and looked at me. I have a question. Was that batch of goods really bought from the African tribal chief? Mr. Zachary's expression changed slightly. This is irrelevant to the case. It is relevant. I stared into his eyes. On the day of warehousing, I handled all the documents. The customs declaration stated that they were research samples. The donor was a Swiss-based biogenetic company, and donation means free. Mr. Zachary, you spent 200 million to buy these things. Why does the customs declaration say they were free donations? Are you trying to evade taxes? A hush fell over the courtroom. Mr. Zachary's lawyer immediately stood up to object, arguing that the defendant was maliciously misleading and slandering his client. The judge banged the gavel. Defendant, please watch your words and do not raise issues irrelevant to the case. I ignored him and continued to look at Mr. Zachary, asking him word by word, how much tax can be saved by importing 200 million worth of goods under the guise of free donation? Mr. Zachary, you know better than I do what consequences your company will face if this is investigated by the tax authorities and customs. Are you sure you want to continue to haggle with me over these few million in repair costs? Mr. Zachary's face turned from livid to pale. He stared at me, his eyes seeming to spit fire. I knew I had gambled correctly. This so-called son of a chieftain was just a story he had fabricated to cover his tracks. He didn't dare let this matter be investigated further. After a long silence, he took a deep breath and said to his lawyer, let's drop the lawsuit. I walked out of the courthouse. The sunlight was blinding. I had won, although I lost my job, spent all my savings, and was heavily in debt. I survived, and I didn't have to go to jail or bear millions in debt. That was enough. I ordered a bowl of steaming noodles at a small restaurant, and as I ate, tears streamed down my face. I didn't know why I was crying, for the dead love, for the broken trust, or for myself, who had survived the ordeal. I soon found a new job, still working as a quality inspector at a small logistics company. Life was hard, but I lived it with peace of mind. Lena still messages me from time to time. Because of the child, Eric's parents take special care of him, constantly calling her their daughter-in-law. No matter what Lena wants, they do their best to satisfy her, and they don't even have time to take care of Eric, who is already in jail. They already know in their hearts that Eric is finished, and now I am the only hope for the Chen family. I am living the good life you longed for. Emily, you must be very jealous of me. It wasn't until Lena's due date was approaching that she finally calmed down, but before I could catch my breath, Eric's mother suddenly called me, saying that Lena had given birth to a charcoal baby, and that it was all my fault. She demanded that I come to the hospital immediately and give their family an explanation. The thought of a charcoal baby grew wildly in my mind, and I immediately took a taxi to the hospital. As soon as I arrived on the obstetrics floor, I heard a fierce argument coming from the end of the corridor. You shameless bitch, Eric's mother screamed. What kind of karma did our Chen family have to endure to marry someone like you? My son is still suffering in prison, and you're out here sleeping around. Whose seed is this black devil? Then Lena's weak but sharp retort. I didn't sleep around. This is clearly Ming's child, a child of the Chen family. "You're lying," Eric's father roared. "Our family has been pure Han Chinese for 8 generations. How could we possibly give birth to a black person? Do you think we're stupid?" I leaned against the wall, listening to the argument inside, feeling only absurdity and amusement. The hospital room door was suddenly yanked open, and Eric's mother rushed out, her face streaked with tears and a crazed look in her eyes. She saw me, paused for a moment, and then lunged at me like a madwoman. "It's you, Qin Yang. You bitch. You're the curse of our family. You're the one who harmed us. Did you curse Mingming? That's why Lena gave birth to such a monster." I stumbled from her push, hitting the wall. Nurses and doctors rushed over, pulling her away with difficulty. I pushed through the crowd and walked into the room. Lena lay in the hospital bed, her face pale and her hair disheveled. When he saw that I had really come, a flash of panic crossed his eyes. The newborn infant lay in the crib beside him, small, wrinkled, with pure chocolate-colored skin, healthy and unique. "What?" I walked to his bedside, looking down at him. "Don't recognize me." Lena bit her lip and didn't speak. "The baby is very cute," I said softly, looking at the infant. "It's just that the skin color isn't quite like Eric's." "You're talking nonsense." Lena suddenly became agitated. "He is Mingming's child. He is that so?" I laughed. "That's really interesting. The heir that Eric was so determined to obtain, even to the point of killing his wife, is actually a mixed-race child." I didn't. Lena's emotions completely collapsed. He grabbed the pillow on the bed and threw it at me. "I'm telling you." "So what if the child is black? It's still top-tier genetics. 100 times better than a woman like you who can't even have children." His words silenced the entire room. Eric's parents stood frozen in place, as if struck by lightning. The term top-tier genetics sounded so familiar. Suddenly, I remembered something, that once-in-a-century top-tier gene from the African tribal chief, worth 200 million. I looked at Lena. An absurdly ridiculous guess surfaced in my mind. "Lena," my voice was trembling, "were you and Chen Mingming the ones who went to Africa on a business trip to contact that tribal chief?" Lena's body suddenly stiffened. His eyes began to dodge, and his face was even paler than before. I don't understand what you're saying." "You understand." I stared at him intently. "When it was put into storage, I checked the handover records, and your signatures were on it. You were not only the contact persons, but also the escorts for the entire journey, from Africa all the way to the company." Coldly, "You were the only 2 people who had contact with that chief." Eric's father seemed to realize something as well, and he pointed at Lena with trembling fingers. You shameless thing." Lena completely panicked, and he struggled to sit up from the hospital bed, incoherently defending himself. "No, it's not what you think. I just thought that Chief was very powerful. They all said his genes were once in a century, and I wanted to get a little bit of that. I thought if our child could have a little bit of that top-notch gene, then Mingming would definitely be happier. I didn't think it would be like this. I thought it would only be a little smarter, a little stronger. How would I know it would turn into a black person?" His words were like a bomb detonating in the ward, and everyone was stunned. Eric's mother rolled her eyes and fainted straight to the ground, and his father clutched his chest and collapsed on the ground, gasping for breath. And as I watched this farce in front of me, I finally couldn't help but burst into laughter. Laughing until tears streamed down my face. Retribution. This is truly the most accurate and ironic retribution in the world. Eric abandoned me, schemed against me, and even tried to kill me for this so-called top-tier gene. He thought he had obtained the whole world, but in the end, he was just raising someone else's child for 9 months, and one that he looked down upon the most. He thought it was the child of savage and backward Africans. The heir he had longed for had nothing to do with him from the beginning. The gentle haven she had dreamed of was nothing more than the wishful thinking of a foolish and greedy woman. His life, his pride, everything about him had become a complete joke. Eric learned about this in prison, from his lawyer during a meeting. I don't know what his expression was at the time. I only know that he went crazy from that day on. He started attacking people in prison non-stop, biting anyone he saw. Always repeating only one sentence, "My son." Later, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia and transferred from prison to a mental hospital. The Chen family was completely ruined. Mason suffered a stroke due to overstimulation and became hemiplegic. Mrs. Mason couldn't bear the blow and spent her days in tears, telling everyone she met that Emily was a jinx and Lena was a vixen. As for Lena, she was kicked out of the Chen family after the hospital farce. She has no job, no money, and has to raise a child who is crying for food. He wanted to abandon the child, but he didn't dare. He wanted to find the child's biological father, but he didn't even know the chief's name. He came to me once, holding that dark-skinned baby and kneeling at my door, begging me to forgive him, begging me to lend him money. Sister Yang, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Please help me for the sake of the child. He is also a life. I looked at the child sleeping peacefully in his arms. He was innocent, but his mother's stupidity and greed doomed him to a lifetime of tragedy. I didn't soften. I just calmly told him, "Did you ever think that I was also a life when you locked me in the freezer?" I closed the door, and outside was his desperate cry. After that, I never saw him again. I heard that he took his child to a small city in the south, barely making a living by doing odd jobs and meager relief funds. A year later, I used all my savings, plus the money I borrowed from friends, to open a small trading company, still doing quality inspection. But this time, I was working for myself. As for Mr. Zachary, his life was not easy either. The matter of tax evasion was finally exposed, and the company was fined to the point of bankruptcy, and its reputation was completely ruined. And that AF001, which he had placed high hopes on, was found to have completely lost its activity due to a small error in the thawing process during artificial insemination. He spent $200 million to buy a tube of waste liquid, and his air plan was completely ruined. Another Mid-Autumn festival. I sat alone in the office of the new company. Outside the window were thousands of lights, and the moonlight was like water. I stood up, walked to the window, looked at the full moon in the sky, and took a deep breath. The air no longer had the coldness of the freezer, nor the pungent smell of smoke, only freedom and new life. My life is like this bright moon. Even if it has been obscured by dark clouds, it will eventually become clear and complete again. The end of the full text. The first story ends here. I hope you like the next story. Will be more exciting. Let's continue reading together. On the eve of the clarification, Nathan suddenly secretly altered the marriage certificate between me and him, changing the groom's name to Adrian, the GU family's uncle. Friends were shocked, saying he was crazy and that if things went wrong, Evelyn would have wasted 7 whole years waiting for him, becoming an old maid. Nathan laughed nonchalantly, saying he lost a bet with Won and agreed to do whatever she said. Besides, it was just changing a marriage certificate, anyway. Lin Xinwan's marriage had been ruined 10 times already, so one more time wouldn't matter. Sophie was an orphan he had taken in, now serving as his personal maid. Once he realizes the mistake, he will definitely rush back to find me in a hurry. What if things really get muddled and he enters the bridal chamber by mistake? My uncle is incapable anyway. In the end, Evelyn is still mine, and I can still get a hold of her. His tone was frivolous and nonchalant, and everyone burst into laughter. I stood at the door for a long time, my heart growing colder bit by bit, and finally I turned around and poured out all the sobering up soup in my hand. Afterward, when Mother came to me in a panic with the wrongly made marriage certificate, I only smiled and replied that it didn't matter. Let's just proceed according to it. This time, I didn't go to him to change back the marriage certificate and propose marriage to the GU family. That day, it happened that Nathan was about to take Su Won out for a trip. I casually handed him my wedding invitation, but he casually tossed it aside, saying he wouldn't read the apology letter. He added that he would only forgive me when I sent the hairpin that Won had taken a fancy to. I didn't explain, only coldly watched him leave. Later, on my joyous wedding day, Nathan, who was always aloof and self-possessed, acted like a madman, forcing his way into the palace. I am the groom. I am clearly the groom. Won, are you sure this marriage contract truly cannot be changed? But Adrian is an impotent cripple. My mother's eyes were slightly red, and I felt a pang of guilt, since learning that Gu Beichen had agreed to marry me. The happiest person was my mother. She knew I had waited for Nathan for 7 years, watching me go from the prime of youth to the age of blossoming. year after year, until I became the old maid that everyone in the capital mocked and no one wanted. On the day the GU family sent the betrothal gifts, my mother cried all night, and later she stayed up for 30 nights, embroidering a dragon and phoenix auspicious wedding dress for me. But now Nathan sent the wrong marriage contract because of a bet with his personal maid. At this moment, I only felt extremely tired. I looked at the red background and gold letters and said softly, "My love, after all, we are both members of the GU family. I know I can no longer be willful." This is the 10th time Nathan has broken his promise and changed the wedding date. The first time, Jin Jongran stood up for me, berating him for being fickle and faithless. The second time, the noble ladies were puzzled and speculated whether we had a conflict. Later, time and time again, everyone felt that the problem stemmed from me, saying that I was shameless and disliked. They said I was mean and vicious, causing revulsion. My childhood sweetheart, Nathan, naturally didn't want to marry me. When Nathan first broke the engagement, I had considered finding someone else, but when matchmaker saw it was us, she awkwardly pushed the gifts away, saying that Master GU had already said that you were his person, so who in the capital would dare to compete with him? Besides, with your reputation, my dear, you'll probably only be able to be Madam GU in the future. My pale white index finger landed on the 3 words Adrian. And I knew that I had finally let go of my entanglement with Nathan and was content to be Madam GU. It was just that this GU was not that GU. Chapter 202. Madam Cole was very surprised to learn that I was going to marry Adrian. One can imagine that Adrian was her most beloved youngest son and had been bedridden for many years. She immediately agreed to the marriage and added a lot of betrothal gifts for me. It is said that Adrian secretly supplemented them for you. Mother explained to me in a low voice. I looked at the countless boxes in the courtyard and nodded, saying that I was satisfied with everything. The wedding preparations were in full swing when an unexpected person paid a visit. Nathan. He was dressed in a dark purple outfit embroidered with gold, his ponytail held high by a purple gold crown, looking very proud and high-spirited. His eyes were full of smugness and schadenfreude, and behind him was Sophie. I knew he thought I hadn't discovered the mistake in the marriage certificate. Seeing that I ignored him, he didn't mind, and just picked up the cup I had drunk from and drained it. "The dowry is all ready, is it?" Hearing my cold voice, a strange look flashed across his face, but he just reminded me, "Have you checked everything? The betrothal gift list, the wedding invitations, and the marriage certificate? After all, it's a major event in your life. Why not take them out and have another look?" I pretended not to understand his hint and only said, "Everything has been checked. If you have nothing else, please leave as soon as possible." Nathan looked displeased but pursed his lips and said, "I do have something to ask you today. I gave you my mother's jade bracelet back then for my future wife. Now that you haven't married into the family yet, shouldn't you return the bracelet to me?" When I opened my eyes, when I received the bracelet, I was only 16 years old. The sun was shining just right that day, and Nathan came to me mysteriously. As soon as we met, he put the jade bracelet on my hand. The bracelet was icy and snow-white, made of top-quality white jade, and looked extremely precious at first glance. But he was tightly gripped his wrist. "This is my mother ready for my future daughter-in-law heirloom. You take the shadow banbo." His smile was even more brilliant than the sun. Later I learned that the jade bracelet is Nathan's mother family heirloom bracelet. Mrs. GU knew he stole the jade bracelet and gave him a good beating, but Nathan said with great confidence that I would not take this bracelet for concubine Wanwan in the future. It would be the same whenever I gave it to her. In the blink of an eye, I had been wearing that bracelet for 7 years, and he, like Nathan, slowly integrated into my life. Seeing my silence, Nathan thought I was unwilling. Just as he was about to say something, Sophie, who was beside him, held his arm first and said softly, "Why don't we just forget it? Sister Shin-wan has been wearing it for so long after all." Nathan immediately retorted, "No matter how long she's had it, it's still a GU family item. I said I'd let you try it, and I will." So, she was asking me for it on behalf of Su Wanwan. I understood and reached out to take off the jade bracelet and handed it over to you. Nathan was stunned. as if he didn't expect I would be so straightforward, and there was a hint of surprise on his face. Uncertain, I said nonchalantly, "You're right, this is originally a GU family item. It's indeed inappropriate for me to wear it when I haven't married you." Now Nathan was a little uncomfortable. He took the bracelet and said, "Well, on the day we get married, I will personally put it on for you again." Hearing this, a trace of jealousy flashed in Su Wanwan's eyes. Seeing Nathan stuffing the bracelet to Sophie and preparing to leave, I stopped him and called out, "Nathan, since the bracelet has been returned to you, what about my Lin family's double blessing jade pendant?" His footsteps paused, and he looked at me in disbelief. "You want me to return the love token to you? Evelyn, are you not planning to marry me?" In that instant, I almost blurted out to question him, who exactly didn't want this marriage, but I wanted to preserve my last shred of dignity, not wanting to be like a resentful wife constantly questioning everything. I only said lightly, "I just think it's inappropriate for you to have that jade pendant." He snorted coldly, reached out and yanked off the jade pendant hanging at his waist, and threw it at me. "This jade pendant has long been saved, it should indeed be replaced." After speaking, he led a limp Sophie away. I didn't chase after him, only gently touching the crack on the jade pendant. That was a sword mark. After he got the jade pendant that year, he treasured it so much, always keeping it close to his chest, until one time when suppressing bandits, an arrow came straight at him, shooting directly into his heart. Everyone thought Nathan would be seriously injured or even killed because of this, but he was only stunned for a moment. Slowly took out the jade pendant, still carrying body temperature from his chest. That jade pendant blocked the arrow, saving his life. Later, he knelt in front of me and said, "Wanwan, you are my lucky star. If not for you, I would have died long ago. I will never let you down in the future." At that time, we were intimate, but later even the address became estranged. He never called me Wanwan again, only because Sophie said our names were similar, always making him feel like he was a superfluous substitute. So from then on, Nathan directly called me by my name, "Miss." The maid Molly's worried voice pulled me out of the memories of the past. I gave the jade pendant to her. "This jade pendant is cracked, take it and dispose of it." "But this is what you stayed up several nights to carve by hand." I just smiled. "It's useless now." After this, Nathan never came to find me again. And there were only 4 days left until my marriage with Gu's youngest uncle. This day, my mother took me to see Madame Cole to discuss the marriage. It was also the first time I met Adrian. She sat in a wooden wheelchair, her face with a trace of unhealthy paleness, but her appearance was extremely handsome. Madame Cole said that the peach blossoms in the Huanan garden are blooming just right. "Why don't you take her for a walk tonight?" I softly agreed, and went forward to push Adrian's wheelchair. He was a humorous and knowledgeable man, and could talk to me about any topic, even the Bible, the most popular rouge and makeup now. She knows a lot about. I was originally a little nervous, but I gradually became less restrained. In the midst of our chat, I suddenly felt a sharp gaze upon me. I turned to look and saw Nathan standing under the eaves at some point, his dark and deep eyes fixed on me and Adrian. In his hand, he held a gold-lettered invitation, which I recognized at once as the one we had just discussed with Madame Cole regarding the arrangements for my and Adrian's wedding. Chapter 4:04. Nathan's eyes were profound, unreadable, but the slightly drooping corners of his mouth betrayed his foul mood. Seeing me look back at him, he walked over slowly. "Why are you with my uncle?" Before I could explain, Adrian glanced at him and said calmly, "What, do I need to report my affairs to you?" His voice was somewhat cold, a stark contrast to the gentle tones he had used with me earlier. With just one sentence, Nathan's expression changed subtly. It was only then that I belatedly remembered that Adrian, before his injury, had been a renowned god of war and the mainstay of the GU family. Nathan clutched the invitation and said, "I just don't want him to trouble you. Uncle, Shin-chan and I have some things to discuss. Would you mind?" Adrian's gaze fell on me. I hesitated for a moment and nodded. He then wheeled himself to the corridor. The distance was neither too far nor too close, allowing him to hear nothing of our conversation while still seeing everything in the garden clearly. Seeing this, Nathan frowned, looking somewhat displeased, but he dared not show it. He simply fixed his gaze on me, and his first words were an accusation. "Evelyn, why did you sell the jade pendant that symbolizes our love that day?" I asked Molly to sell the jade pendant cheaply at any shop, but I never expected it to end up back in Nathan's hands after all this time. The jade pendant was broken, so naturally, it had to be disposed of, I explained lightly. Nathan said, "All right, I guess, you have to give me a better one in the future. But I was just saying it casually that day, and you actually sold it. You listen to me too much. If I say I want one to be my wife and you can only be a concubine, would you rush to help me bring her into the house?" I looked at him in surprise. It was clear that I didn't want the jade pendant anymore, yet he thought that it was because of his casual words that day that I sold it, and he even said such foolish things. For a moment, I almost laughed at his confident demeanor. But in the end, I didn't want to cause any trouble. I simply handed him my wedding invitation. "If there's nothing else, I'll return to the manor." This was the etiquette of the noble families. This wedding invitation had to be given to him, but before I could finish speaking, Nathan took the wedding invitation. His attitude was casual. "I heard the date is set for 4 days from now. I'm going hunting with Won in the outskirts of the capital tomorrow, and I don't know if I'll be back in time. Why don't you tell your grandmother to change the date to 5 days from now?" I looked at him in surprise, feeling that Nathan was acting strangely today. He had deliberately written the marriage agreement incorrectly, but neither of us had mentioned it since. Now, my marriage is naturally being discussed according to the marriage agreement, and the person I am to marry is Adrian, but he seems to have completely forgotten about this, implying that I am determined to marry him. I don't know if he is too confident or underestimates those rules. Perhaps I have been silent for too long. He sighed as if compromising and said, "All right. I'll try to get back that day." As he spoke, he lowered his head, intending to look at the wedding invitation, but he heard a clear female voice, "Brother Beichen." Su Wanwan pounced into his arms like a spring oriole. Nathan subconsciously caught her. Su Wanwan wrapped her arms around his waist and said with a smile, "I've already packed my things." Having said that, she released her hand in a panic, as if she had just noticed me. She fiddled with the white jade bracelet in her hand and said, "Sister Shinwan, don't misunderstand, he wouldn't be so petty." Nathan casually stuffed the wedding invitation into his wide sleeve. He rubbed Su Wanwan's head and said, "He knows I treat you like a younger sister and won't care about these trivial matters." Su Wanwan's breath hitched, her lip was lightly bitten, and she forced a smile. "Sister Shinwan is really generous. I thought that if you loved someone, you would definitely be jealous if you encountered something like this." Nathan Yizheng's gaze fell on my face, which remained unchanged, and finally revealed a hint of unease. "It's late for you tonight. I still need to go back and prepare for the wedding day." He was stunned, and hurriedly nodded. "You should go back and prepare quickly. Once you marry into the GU family, I will definitely treat you well." I was too lazy to say more to him, and left without hesitation. 4 days later, the GU family's wedding procession arrived early. I had thought GU Huainan would choose a carriage, but unexpectedly, he managed to ride a tall white horse. I don't know how, through the swaying beaded curtain of the phoenix coronet, he smiled at me slightly, his warm hand holding mine as we slowly left the wedding hall, telling me to look up. I saw fine beads of sweat on his forehead, and knowing that it must have been difficult for him to stand up, I couldn't help but feel touched. Bowing to heaven and earth, bowing to the parents, the matchmaker's voice was louder and louder, and as I turned around, ready to complete the final step, I suddenly heard a commotion outside. "Let me in, I'm the groom." A figure rushed in. It was Nathan, who had been on an outing to the suburbs with the soft and delicate. He looked a little disheveled, and when he saw me in a wedding dress, Nathan immediately cursed, "Lin Xinwan, have you no shame, just because I was a little late? You casually went and married a man." The crowd looked at him strangely, because everyone knew that today was the wedding ceremony of me and Adrian, and as Adrian's junior, he should respectfully call me aunt. But perhaps he was too angry, completely unaware of this. His face was full of contempt. "Let me tell you, I deliberately came late to make you understand. If you obediently listen to me, I will let you marry into the GU family. Little uncle, you too." He is ignorant and making trouble. Why are you joining him, Evelyn? What are you standing there for? Come and help me change into the wedding dress. Chapter 5. The VIP hall was silent, the guests looked at each other, and above the high platform, Madame Cole's face was livid, his eyes were bloodshot, staring fixedly at Nathan. He slammed the mahogany chair and roared, "What nonsense are you talking about? Today is your little uncle's joyous day. I won't allow you to act crazy here. Someone, drag him down." Gu Beichen was stunned, his eyes full of disbelief. Little uncle's joyous day? How is that possible? It's clearly me and Evelyn. He was held tightly by several servants, his whole person stunned for a second. Seeing that the man was about to be dragged out, Nathan suddenly struggled and said it was impossible. Lin Xingwan is clearly my wife, she is my childhood sweetheart, and this marriage was decided long ago. How could she marry my uncle? This must be a mistake. Grandmother, let me go. Evelyn Xingwan, say something. Hearing this, I said coldly, how could it be a mistake? The marriage certificate was Molly respectfully held out and displayed to everyone. My voice was cold, and the marriage certificate clearly stated the names of Adrian and myself. The wedding invitations I sent out these days also bore our two names, so there was naturally no mistake. Hearing this, the guests who came also echoed, yes, these days when the Gu family was preparing for the wedding. It was all Adrian who was busy, even Miss Lin's rouge was personally selected by her. If she wasn't his wife, who would be so attentive? Isn't that right? Today, this important wedding event, I saw that young Master Gu was not even in the Gu mansion this morning. What kind of groom would be so inattentive? Everyone spoke one after another, their tone contemptuous, and Nathan's face turned red and then white. He originally intended to manipulate me by deliberately taking Su Wannan to the suburbs and delaying his return until now, but he didn't expect that this would make him the target of public criticism. Jin Zhong had seen all his actions over the years. Some people thought he had good methods, while others disdained him. Tonight, Nathan's gaze fell on me, and he gritted his teeth and asked Evelyn, "Do you really want to marry him because of a momentary impulse? There's still time to come back. If you two consummate the marriage, there will be no chance to regret it." I looked at him coldly. "Take him away, don't delay the auspicious time." The last trace of color faded from Nathan's face. Just as the servants were about to take her away, Nathan's cold voice suddenly came, "You can't marry him. My uncle is an impotent, useless beast." In the deathly silent wedding hall, a roar suddenly rang out, and Madame Cole could no longer bear it. Grabbing the teacup beside her and smashing it hard at Nathan, the Celadon porcelain heavily struck Nathan's forehead, and crimson blood slowly flowed down that angular face. But Nathan did not raise his hand to wipe it, only stared at me, and said word by word, "If you marry him, you will be a widow in name only. I cannot watch you jump into the fire pit." My heart trembled, and I felt that at this moment, Nathan must be crazy. After Gu Huainan was injured in Chapter 6, he remained bedridden and used a wheelchair to get around. Although there were occasional rumors that he was impotent, they were just rumors, and no one brought them to the forefront. But today, it was Adrian Noriko's Nathan who said it in front of everyone. I'm afraid that within half a day, this news will spread throughout the capital. At that time, not only the Gu family but also the Lin family and I will become the talk of the town. In the wedding hall, everyone was silent, not daring to speak. I slowly walked up to Nathan, a glimmer of hope flashing across his face. The next second, I raised my hand and slapped him hard. I didn't hold back at all. And a clear handprint immediately appeared on his left cheek. Nathan's pupils constricted slightly, and he looked at me in disbelief. I said coldly, "It's not your place to comment on my husband. What do you take the Lin family for? Do you think we wouldn't investigate such a small matter before arranging the engagement?" He was stunned for a moment, then immediately reacted. I continued, "Before a woman of noble status in the capital gets married, she will send a trial marriage nanny to the man's house to verify whether the man is capable through certain methods." As soon as I finished speaking, the atmosphere immediately livened up. That's right, the Lin family is also a noble family. How could they not thoroughly investigate their daughter's future husband? This Nathan is really confused. How can he say these words, especially considering that the other party is his uncle? I secretly clenched my fist and quietly wiped the cold sweat from my palm. In fact, the marriage wasn't that hasty, and the Lin family wasn't the type to do things like that, so they didn't send any trial marriage nanny. That slap seemed to completely wake Nathan up. He pursed his lips, about to retort, but then a figure staggered in, pushed away the servants holding Nathan down, and then hugged Nathan tightly. Her soft voice carried a hint of tears. "Brother Beichen, are you all right?" He raised his hand to gently wipe the blood from Nathan's lips, and a silver-white jade bracelet was revealed as his sleeve slid down. Madame Cole's expression immediately changed. She walked up to Sophie in a few steps, grabbed his wrist, and demanded, "Where did you get this bracelet?" Sophie rolled his eyes and pretended to be pitiful, saying, "Brother Beichen lent it to me to wear temporarily." "Sister WN, are you marrying Uncle GU because you're angry about this jade bracelet? I'll return the jade bracelet to you. Please live well with Brother Beichen." In just a few words, he first made his relationship with Nathan ambiguous, and then trivialized the reason I married Adrian to the theft of the bracelet. As expected, before he could retrieve the bracelet, Nathan grabbed his hand instead, determined that since he was marrying my uncle, what right did he have to take the bracelet? He might as well give the bracelet to him. Su Ruoan's face lit up with joy, but upon catching Madame Cole's sharp gaze, she immediately lowered her head, pretending to be shy. Nathan grabbed Su Ruoan's hand, took one last look at me, and said, "Evelyn, I'll wait for the day you regret it." I felt a bit disdainful in my heart, only coldly laughing as I watched him leave with his people. What he didn't know was that I also intended to seek justice for my 7 wasted years. Chapter 707. Because Adrian's legs were inconvenient. The others didn't make a fuss about toasting and creating a wedding night ruckus. I followed him back to the bridal chamber. There was a faint scent of osman thus in the room, refreshing and pleasant. Adrian carefully parted the beaded curtain on the phoenix coronet. The red candles flickered, and the dim yellow light softened his originally sharp and indifferent face. At this moment, I actually felt my heart beat a little faster, and I subconsciously lowered my eyes to avoid his eyes. And a soft chuckle entered my ears. He said, "It's getting late, wife, let's rest." His slender fingers removed the heavy headdress for me, and I subconsciously asked, "Can you really not do it?" Adrian's fingers paused, and he glanced at me with a smile that was not a smile. "Wife, why not verify it yourself?" When I got closer, I realized that his eyes were deep and dark, hiding countless turbulent waves, and I was a little timid for a while, but before I could show weakness, he grabbed my hand and pushed me into the layers of brocade quilts. Shaman swayed me through the night, and it wasn't until dawn that he finally let me go, allowing me to sleep. Perhaps because the taut string had finally loosened, I slept soundly until the sun was high in the sky. Seeing me awake, Molly came to help me, her face flushed. Miss and Master said that he had already spoken with the old lady. There was no need to serve tea today. My cheeks flushed, and I thought indignantly, "It's true that rumors are misleading. If I hadn't believed Zhong Yao's transmission, how could disaster have come from my mouth?" After washing up, I slowly left the courtyard. But as soon as I opened the gate, I saw Su Wanwan kneeling straight at the entrance. His face was pale, and he looked extremely weak. Upon closer inspection, his clothes were somewhat disheveled. My heart sank. I suspected his appearance meant no good. As expected, as soon as Sophie saw me, she immediately sidled up to me. She grabbed the hem of my skirt tightly and sobbed, "Miss Lin, please go and see Brother Beichen. Last night, during your wedding night, he drank all night. He mistook me for you and held me, crying all night. Miss Lin, can you come back to Brother Beichen's side?" As she said this, she inadvertently revealed mottled red marks near her collarbone. If one looked closely, the slightly open collar of her dress also revealed a glimpse of her bosom. It seemed that last night, the drunk Nathan did more than just hold her, and today, she probably came to flaunt these favors. I lowered my eyes to look at her and said, "Isn't this what you wanted? You've been his personal maid for so long. Didn't you want him to take you as a concubine, or even marry you as his wife?" Su Wanan's breathing hitched, and I smiled slightly. instead of staring at me, you should think about how to win over Nathan. But unfortunately, even if you marry him, I'm still your elder. You'll have to pay your respects to me every day in the future. Su Wanan's face looked awful, but she remained kneeling on the ground, not getting up. Just then, hurried footsteps approached. Wanan, it's Nathan. He rushed to help Sophie up, looking anxious. He was just about to question me sternly, but he couldn't help but pause in surprise. Chapter 8. His gaze fell directly on my neck, where there were several ambiguous hickeys, left by Jiu Huinan's kisses last night. Nathan's eyes were fixed on those ambiguous marks. His gaze as if trying to scrape a piece of flesh off of me. You slept with him, how could you? I looked directly into those jealous eyes, finding it incredibly laughable. He is jealous and regretful, but I wouldn't naively think he loves me and regrets seeing me marry someone else. Nathan's regret is only because something he always held in his hand has flown away. His hatred is nothing more than feeling that something that belonged to him has been taken away. Nathan. Don't be so self-righteous. I looked at him coldly. When you deliberately wrote the marriage certificate incorrectly, you should have thought this day would come. My gaze fell on Su Wan, and I said with a half-smile, it seems you and your maid had a good night. I deliberately emphasized the word maid, as expected. A trace of resentment flashed across Su Wan's face. She pursed her lips, suppressed the hatred in her heart, and said with a grieved expression, Brother Beichen was just drunk. It's all my fault. I smiled. Although you say that, the Jiu family cannot disregard morality and give me no status at all. Today, I will take charge and make Nathan your concubine. As soon as he finished speaking, Nathan immediately retorted, You're crazy. You actually want to stuff a woman at me. Her eyes were full of unwillingness, as if she didn't understand why I would want him to take a concubine. I felt in my heart that doing this was naturally for revenge, but unfortunately he was too arrogant to understand, and Su Ruruan might understand, but would definitely not remind him. Bei Chen. Just as I was about to exert further pressure, I suddenly heard a deep male voice. It was Adrian. He sat in a wheelchair, pushed by his bodyguard. Seeing Adrian approaching, a hint of fear flashed in Jiu Beichen's eyes, and he respectfully saluted, Uncle. This person was clearly arguing with Adrian yesterday, but now he's as scared as a mouse seeing a cat. I knew something must have happened between them, but I couldn't be bothered to investigate, and just looked at Adrian. He smiled gently at me, and then said, He is your elder, giving you that concubine. Naturally he cares about you, his nephew. If you continue with this impolite attitude in the future, I will have someone teach you some manners. Nathan immediately fell silent. Seeing that the person was honest, Adrian continued, Since you don't fancy this maid and don't want to take her as a concubine, then give her a title as a tongfang, a bed-warming maid. The status of a tongfang is much lower than that of a concubine, not even considered a proper title. Even the stewards can order her around. Su Wanan's face immediately turned pale, and she looked at Jiu Beichen with a pitiful expression. Nathan immediately said, Then I will not only take her as a concubine, but also make her a favored concubine. Hearing this, I was immediately amused. Who in Jingzhong doesn't know that Su Wanwan ruined my marriage with Nathan? Everyone knows that this Su Wanwan is not a good person, and also knows that Nathan was fooled by her. If it were Su Wanwan, without any status, perhaps some noble ladies would still be willing to marry Nathan, and at worst, they could find a reason to sell her off afterward. But Nathan was so foolish as to keep a concubine before even marrying a wife. I'm afraid that the noble ladies of Jingzhong who have lost their minds will now avoid him. I was extremely satisfied with this outcome and agreed with a smile. Nathan glared at me fiercely and finally left with Su Wanwan. My gaze fell on Adrian. Where did you go today? Having said that, I felt a little shy, as there was a hint of coquetry in my words. Adrian was taken aback, then smiled gently and said, My wife. Please forgive me. I met with the imperial physician today. Chapter 9:09. Is there something wrong with your health? I asked eagerly. I saw you riding a horse yesterday. Is it because of that? Seeing my concerned look, he was stunned, then shook his head with a smile. No. I just went to discuss ways to treat my legs with the imperial physician. In the past, I thought that if I couldn't stand up, I couldn't stand up, but in the future, I will have someone I want to protect. So naturally I want to recover my legs. It was for me. I felt a little moved and happy at the same time, that his legs could still be cured. In the days that followed, I accompanied Adrian to the imperial physician every day to listen to the diagnosis. Of course, although I was busy here, I didn't sit idly by and let Nathan go. In recent days, I've deliberately made a big deal out of Nathan taking a concubine. For a while, there was much discussion in the capital. Those noble young ladies looked down on Nathan's actions. This even reached the ears of the emperor. The emperor and empress were childhood sweethearts and have always been loving. They usually hate those who favor concubines over their wives or allow maids to rise in status. The emperor immediately ordered the empress to invite Madame Cole into the palace and severely reprimanded her. Madame Cole is also a ruthless person. After returning, she immediately punished Nathan with 20 heavy blows. I heard that he fainted from the beating. Afterwards, without waiting for him to heal, she directly ordered him to kneel in the ancestral hall. You should know that Madame Cole usually dotes on this grandson the most, never even saying a harsh word to him. Now, this punishment is truly severe. When Su Wanwan learned of this, her legs immediately went weak. I thought to myself that he finally knows fear now. Madame Cole acted much faster than I expected. On the third day Nathan knelt in the ancestral hall. Su Wanwan became a cold corpse. I heard that when she learned Nathan was being punished, she was afraid of being implicated, so she packed some gold, silver, and jewelry overnight, wanting to escape by boat. The Gu family found out and hurried to chase after that Su Wanwan. Cornered like a desperate dog, she actually thought of jumping into the river to escape, but drowned in the water. When I heard the news, I just smiled lightly. No one would care why Su Wanwan, who was not good at swimming, would take the waterway, and why she would think of jumping into the river to escape in the end. Some things are obvious to everyone. After Nathan learned about Su Wanwan's death, he made a fuss, but eventually, he had no choice but to accept it. As time passed, he returned to his carefree self, but he would occasionally steal glances at me. By then, I had discovered I was 3 months pregnant, and his gaze made me feel annoyed. Fortunately, he soon had no time to bother me. Nathan had wasted so many years, and his age was not considered young in the capital. Madame Cole was eager to arrange a marriage for him, but after inquiring about 10 noble ladies of suitable age and status, all refused. The last family even threw the matchmaker out. Nathan's face was terribly dark. The only one willing to talk was a 6th-rank official in the capital, who had a mentally challenged daughter. After the news spread, Nathan became a laughingstock in the entire capital, even more miserable than my situation at the time. He finally couldn't bear it and decided to pack his things and leave the capital to train in the army. When the Gu family bid farewell, I did not go. Molly saw me calmly sewing tiger head shoes and couldn't help but ask curiously, "Miss, I thought your revenge was to make him regret treating you like that, but now it's a bit different from what I thought." I smiled and said, "Silly girl, you think the greatest revenge a woman can take is to stop loving that man, making him regret it, but so what? He didn't love you in the past, humiliated you in every possible way, and you think he will truly cherish you once he loses you, and regret it for the rest of his life? That's just temporary hypocrisy. If I want revenge, of course, I want him to taste the bitterness I've endured, the sins I've suffered, bit by bit. I want him to waste his time, get caught up in rumors, and be unable to stay in this capital any longer. The fact that Gu Beichen went to the military was indeed unexpected to me, but I didn't pay much attention to it. But perhaps it was fate that within half a month, he died on the road. It was said that he was poisoned, and the person who poisoned him was Su Wanwan's former lover. No one knew that Su Wanwan actually had a husband. That woman, greedy for wealth, abandoned her husband, pretended to be an orphaned refugee, and was rescued by Nathan. It is said that on that day, Nathan stayed at the lover's house. During a casual conversation, he inadvertently mentioned Su Wanwan's death. That lover also loved Su Wanwan to the extreme, and directly poisoned Nathan. After this news spread, Nathan's reputation worsened. Madame Cole didn't even let him into the ancestral grave. In the end, even in death, he was only wrapped in a straw mat and buried randomly outside. When Molly mentioned it to me, I just smiled. I had nothing to do with him anymore. In the end, it was his own fault. My gaze fell on Adrian, who was hurrying over, walking with great strides. In his hands, he was carrying jujubes and preserved fruits, all things I've been enjoying lately. I know my life has started anew, alright. That's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. We'll keep updating with more exciting stories, and we look forward to seeing you next time.